UFC Paris Imavov versus Borralho just went down, and we just witnessed two of the most hyped prospects in the UFC get absolutely derailed. There was a lot of finishes on this card. Card was actually very, very solid, one, top to bottom. Even though some of the fights, didn't go the way that, most of us might have expected, the card was absolutely fire. You can't doubt it at all. So we're going to go through each fight one by one, reviewing it. And at the end of the video, we'll go through the picks and the parlays. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and let's get it underway. Starting the card off, we had Sam Page do exactly what I thought she was capable of doing against Shauna Bannon. First round, they exchanged some striking on the feet. Shauna, used her kicking game, but Sam Page was not having that. Absolutely closed the gap, took her down, got her in a crucifix position at one point in time, was threatening, a ground and pound finish in the very first round. She did exactly what I thought she was going to do. Wrestle, close distance, be the meaner, stronger woman, and that's what she did. Second round, comes out, takes her down almost immediately, and gets the rear naked choke. Shauna Bannon had no idea how to stop the wrestling from Sam Page, and a lot of people were turned off by her because she was a heavy favorite, but I expected Sam Hughes to come in and do exactly what she did. Absolutely destroyed Shauna Bannon, got the finish, and she looked very impressive. As far as a matchup for Sam Hughes goes, I don't know how high they'll shoot her up, because in my opinion, I don't think Shauna Bannon is a very, high rated women's, what is this, straw weight. If I had to match up, it's kind of hard matching up Sam Page after this. Let's see if we could do something on the fly real quick. Sam Hughes, she's always, not necessarily one fight away from cracking top 20, top 15, but let's see, Tapology got her at 24. I would say a Luma fight could be interesting, but she's fighting Thainara. Maybe the winner of Luma versus Thainara. Thainara's pretty nasty as well. I know she got the finish over... Who did she finish? Molly McCann. Yeah, very impressive first round. Did exactly what she needed to do. Now she's taking on Luma Lugbumier. That could be an interesting fight. So winner of that, I think, versus Sam Hughes could be pretty interesting. And then, whoever wins that, they'll probably get a shot at the rankings. But back to the tale at hand, Sam Hughes doing exactly what she needed to do, getting the finish in the second round. Next fight, man, Rinat FAKHREDINOV. This is his most impressive win in the UFC. I gotta admit it. He had, Andreas Gustafsson looking like, I don't know, man. He did what he said he was gonna do. He's gonna go, for a retard. But Rinat stuck him with a very strong jab, it was a two down the middle, and he was not the same. He looked stuck. He looked like he was hurt, and he ended up. He actually was hurt because Rinat finished him off with a couple of shots later. The straight shots from Rinat were pretty, accurate, pretty powerful, and Bane was unable to close the gap the way that he should have. He did tie up Rinat momentarily, but Rinat, his movement was too good for Gustafsson. Was sticking and moving, and he laid down the shot that ultimately shut him down. This is a very impressive win for Rinat FAKHREDINOV, because not that, Bane was a top 10 welterweight on the rise or something like that, but he definitely had the surging presence about him that he could, mix it up in the top 15. So this loss actually really, really stings for Andreas Gustafsson. I'm sure there's another fight for him that he can win. Maybe, this is a loss that he needed. Seeing that Rinat was definitely a more polished striker than Chaos Williams, where, last time we picked Gustafsson to possibly get a finish over Chaos, but he ended up winning the decision. And, he employed his game plan with zero to no resistance. But Rinat FAKHREDINOV got to salute the win, coming in as an underdog, and he did exactly what he needed to do. His corner was talking about he's a little too friendly prior to the fight, and he was a little friendly with the fight with Zaleski dos Santos, and he was not friendly at all. He let them hands go, and they were pretty powerful and pretty mean. So Shout out to Renat Fakhretdinov for getting the finish in the very first round. Didn't even take a minute to do it. That was very impressive. Did not think Gustafsson was going to crunch down, to those type of shots. Damn. I did not think Renat Fakhretdinov was going to be able to stop Gustafsson with those type of shots. So very impressive. Next fight up, we had Robert BRYCZEK taking on Brad Tavares. And what did I say? Parlay buster number 1, Brad Tavares, gets finished in the third round. First round though, we gotta mention how BRYCZEK damn near finished him early on. The big power shots from BRYCZEK. He's a pretty solid boxer, which is something that I did see, and I did note it to you guys. And I told you that if Brad Tavares got into a brawl with someone with this type of power, it could be very bad for him. First round, he got clipped, almost got finished, and BRYCZEK was just pouring it on ever since then. Second round, Brad did, get his wits back to himself. He was sticking and moving, employed a little bit of wrestling, also shot a takedown in the very first round when BRYCZEK was, on him. Damn, I felt as though that first round could have been a 10-8, but we don't see the scorecards. But BRYCZEK, second round was a little less accurate with the shots. Brad Tavares was able to stick and move, but he was on that back foot the entire second round. Third round, they come out and BRYCZEK just finishes him. And he questioned the ref for the stoppage, but the way that he collapsed, it was not a good visual. And there was a couple of stoppages that was a little testy later in the card, but this was definitely not one of them. So Robert BRYCZEK, I knew he was capable of doing it. It wasn't if, it was more so a when, and he definitely landed the shot to stop Brad Tavares. So shout out to him for the TKO in round number 3. Parlay buster is a success, so we might include that moving forward. Next fight up, we had Sam Patterson taking on Trey Waters. And this was something that I did mention, man. Sam Patterson was definitely going to have the speed advantage in the pocket with Trey Waters. He keeps his hands at his hips, and he got stung up and finished. Sam Patterson hit him with a clean left hand down the middle, and Trey Waters was wobbly ever since. Sam Patterson followed up with some really good shots and finished him in the first round. He looks really good, man. It's a 4-fight win streak for him. Sam Patterson could be a player up at 170, man. He's tall, he's lanky, he's got some power, two back-to-back knockouts. Also has a submission game in his pocket. Sam Patterson is absolutely what his nickname is, the future. He can mix it up with some of the best welterweights in the world, and I'll be interested to see what they do with him moving up. I didn't speak about a matchup for Renat Fakhretdinov, so let's get to, the welterweight rankings, because not necessarily mixing them, matching them up together, but I would like to see what we can do for both of them. I didn't write down any matchups prior to making the video, but we could get something going right now. Maybe Renat's gonna have to fight Ford, so Renat versus D-Rod could be interesting. Sam Patterson. Sam Patterson. What do we do with Sam Patterson? I'm trying to look. I was thinking Wonder Boy, but I don't know if Wonder Boy is gonna fight again. I was thinking maybe a Jeff Neal, but I don't know if they shoot him up that high. Jeff Neal does have some power. I know he just got finished, but that could be a scary matchup for him. Muslim Salikov, I don't think they do that. I don't know, man. I don't know what you do with Sam Patterson. He's gonna get a really good fight. I could tell you that. Phil Rowe, maybe. No, I don't think so. I don't know. Both of these guys coming off of knockout wins. Maybe Phil Rowe is the fight. Another tall, lanky fighter, pretty good boxer too. That could be something, interesting. Interesting fight to watch. Phil Rowe, his grappling skills isn't I wouldn't say they're as clean as Sam Patterson, but he's pretty solid on the mat as well. So Phil Rowe versus Sam Patterson, that could be a really good fight. Top of 2026 even. So yeah, I like those matchups. Let's get back to the card. Very next fight. I picked it. I should have went with the finish because Kyle Fernandez looked absolutely amazing. The speed on the kicks was something that I noted that I said he was more than capable of doing, and it wasn't to the head, but it was to those legs, and he chopped Harry Hardwick down pretty easily in that very first round. Even the first leg kick, I saw, oh yeah, Harry's not checking those, and you see what it ended up, what ended up happening to him. Left in a wheelchair because Kyle Fernandez was relentless to that leg. He even told him, he pointed down at him a couple of times, like, you sure you want me to keep doing this to you? And, he let him fly. And Harry Hardwick tumbled, stopped, dropped, and rolled like he was on fire. And Kyle Fernandez walks away with the TKO, with the calf kick victory. Very impressive. He said he wants to fight. No, I'm mixing him up with somebody else, but he didn't take any licks. I think, there's another fighter on this card that he can mix it up with. And I think that matchup would be pretty interesting as well. So we'll get to that fight when we get there. I think you guys already know where I'm headed. But very impressive finish from Kyle Fernandez. Did what he needed to do against the short notice Harry Hardwick, and he looks really good. Maybe they rebook the Perez-Zion fight because that could still be pretty interesting. If not, like I said, we got another matchup for him later down the road. So shout out to Kyle Fernandez with the finish. Next fight, we had Ante DELIJA marching down Marcin Tybura. I told you guys Marcin Tybura was getting too old. He didn't look really good on the scales, and Ante DELIJA was too mean, too aggressive, and he walked him down and folded Marcin Tybura. First interaction, he did storm against across the octagon, let some shots go, and they ended up tying up against the cage. Tybura was unable to get the move from the clinch down to a takedown, so they separated. DELIJA got back on the pressure, let some shots go, and Marcin Tybura, Timber goes Tiber. Absolutely nasty knockout from Ante DELIJA. Was very emotional after his interview, his post fight interview. Said he's been working all his life for this, and I told you guys, he trains with Tom Aspinall. I said he could be capable of finishing him, just like Tom Aspinall did. And what do you know? They both sent Marcin Tybura face first. So I got some really solid picks here and there, man. I don't know. Some of these fights didn't go the way I thought they were, but yeah. Shout out to Ante DELIJA. I know it was a close money call, but one of the favorite. He wasn't an underdog at close, but he did open as an underdog. It was damn near a coin flip when I mentioned him as a favorite underdog earlier this week. So we'll take it, man. Ante DELIJA with the finish. I knew he was capable of doing it, and we got the pick right. Next fight, Umar C taking on Brendan Ribeiro. Umar C looked really good. I knew this was a really good bounce back opportunity for him against Alonzo Menifield last time out, losing. He looked good. He did exactly what he did. Better athlete, better wrestler, better grappler. Did shoot a takedown, got Brendan Ribeiro down. Didn't really threaten a submission, whereas Brendan Ribeiro threatened I believe it was a Kimura attempt. They got into a little scramble, got back to their feet. Umar side shot another takedown, gets Brendan Ribeiro down, and let's go some pretty nasty ground and pound to get him the finish in the very first round. He looked good, man. I don't know what else, to say about it. He looked pretty good bounce back. And what do we do for a matchup for him? I think Umar C versus, let's see, let's get the light heavyweight. You can't put him in the rankings, nobody at the edge of the rankings either. Maybe Umar C versus, I think maybe a grappler could be an interesting matchup. What do you do with him? Ion Cutelaba fight could be very interesting. I don't think that's a walk in the park for him because Ion could, throw some heavy blows on the feet. He closes the gap pretty fast as well. I don't see them giving him a Julius Walker where he looked a little questionable in that third round too. Navajo Sterling. Oh, he's fighting Rodolfo later this month, actually. I don't know. Does the UFC want to do him a favor or do they want to feed him? Because Uran Satibadiev is there. You know what I'm saying? Uran versus Umar could be interesting. And I know he's not necessarily a grappler, but that finish that he got on DR Nurgazai, whose grappling defense is absolutely atrocious, was pretty nasty. So maybe that's the fight, man. Uran versus Umar. I would definitely like to see it. It could be very interesting. So I'm going with I'm going with Umar versus Uran for the next matchup. Excuse me. Next fight up, we had the main card opener. If you haven't already, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. William Gomis gets it done by unanimous decision. I had a lot of confidence in William Gomis going into this fight, and he did exactly what he needed to do. Stuck, move, didn't stay, too long in the pocket. He did what he needed to do, moved around, was able to, let his shots go, even avoided a couple of grappling exchanges. He looked really good. RUCHALA, he does have some power in his shots. Didn't effectively land them here, but you can see that he was striking with some pretty nasty intentions. I think, Gomis is just too slick of a mover. His footwork was, pretty elite as well in this bigger cage, because that was something that I mentioned, last time out, where he lost to Hyder Emil in that smaller cage. It wasn't going to work out for him. But, he was able to stick and move, avoid a majority of the grappling exchanges, even threaten his own takedowns momentarily in the fight. And, he cruised to a 30-27 on one of the cards, 29-28 on the other two, and he looked really good. Where does he go from here? Featherweight is pretty loaded, man. Maybe I could see a Danny Silva fight. That could be interesting, because Danny Silva's hands are pretty good. He has really good head movement too. I don't think Gomis is going to be able to just pick at him. I like Danny Silva. I know he lost to Kevin Vallejos, but he didn't lose any stock at all. So Gomis versus Danny Silva, I really like that fight. Let's do that next. Next fight up, we had Axel Sola taking on MCKEE, and Axel Sola, man, respect to him finding the late finish. Absolute brutal, I think it was like an uppercut. Yeah, it was an uppercut right in the middle of MCKEE's, body. Absolute. Those punches hurt right to the solar plex. Those punches absolutely hurt. Reese folded. I do want to say that the stoppage was a little fast, but he did fold like he was ready to give in. It was moving by the time the referee stopped it. Herb Dean stopped it, but those are one of those you gotta kind of let them go out. Not necessarily get knocked out, but you gotta let them finish the entire sequence, because Reese McKee was working back up. So he definitely wasn't winning the fight. He was getting picked apart for, damn near all of the fight up until the third round, where he came out, was swinging some pretty heavy shots. Did catch Solo a couple of times, but for a majority of the fight, Solo was sticking and moving, looking way too quick, landing way too clean on McKee. And, he even scored some damage throughout the fight, had his nose all busted up. Very good debut from Axel Sola, and stays undefeated, 11-0-1. Could be very interesting for him. Now, I know he fought at welterweight. I don't think he's going to stay there. So I would move him, book him a fight at lightweight. Him versus Fernandez isn't crazy. I think that's a really good fight. The speed is something that I think both of them have. Him having that type of speed at 170 was pretty interesting too. So I would like to see what he looks like at 155. I don't think he'll suffer, a drastic, I don't think his chin would suffer or anything like that, because he's not a big 170 guy. He is pretty tall. Like I said, they got him listed here at 6'2" now. He definitely didn't look 5'11" like they had him listed earlier. So Fernandez versus Axel Sola could be interesting. Or, there's another lightweight on this card that could make things really interesting. So I really like Axel Sola, man. I'm not a fan, but I'm more impressed with him seeing this fight. Definitely changed up a lot of the mechanics that I saw prior to him stepping in the UFC octagon. So really good performance from him. Reese McKee, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think he's getting cut or anything like that, but what do you do with him? What do you do with Reese McKee? Maybe you do Uros Medic, him getting that win over Gilbert Urbina. Maybe you do Zhang Liang. I know he was talking about getting back in there pretty soon. I don't know, man. I don't know what you do with Reese. But for Axel Sola, if he does move back down, Kawhi Fernandez, or, you know, moving on to the next fight, Balaji Oki versus Mason Jones. Mason Jones versus Axel Sola, or Mason Jones versus Kawhi Fernandez would definitely be interesting. All these guys fighting on the same card. They're talking about, you know, getting back in there pretty soon. I'd say why not mix up, you know, at least one of make one of these matchups. It's pretty easy to make. Mason Jones versus Balaji Oki. Nasty scrap for as long as it lasted. First round, Balaji Oki looked pretty impressive, was stinging Mason Jones up, had him hurt in that very first round, had him wobbled, backed him up, dropped him momentarily, got on top of him, was letting go some decent ground and pound, but nothing that got through pretty cleanly. Then Mason Jones, you know, fights back to his feet, and he drops Balaji Oki, and he almost got him out of there. Had him in full mount, threatened to Kimura to end the first round. And it was pretty tight. I thought Balaji, you know, when he was getting up after the bell ring, it looked like his arm was broken, actually. But he survived, got back up. Second round, they come out. And Balaji decides to, you know, shoot a takedown. Same thing that got him in trouble with Chris Duncan. Does the same mistake here against Mason Jones. Mason Jones flips him with his, you know, judoka background. I forgot the type of toss that it was, but he tossed him, got on top, and finished him with some pretty nasty ground and pound elbows for about a minute. You know, he's on top of him, throwing some pretty mean shots. So Mason Jones looked really good here, man. Said he wasn't really hurt, more so just caught him off guard, slipped. And he only had like a small minor cut in the middle of his forehead. So not a lot of damage to him. He definitely wants to get back in there. He called for the UFC Qatar fight. I believe that's in November, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, him versus Kawhi or him versus Axel Sola would definitely be a fight that I'm interested to watch. Because, you know, Mason the Dragon Jones is back, man. So we'll see what they do with him. Very interesting prospect. Or not necessarily a prospect, but, you know, this is his second stint. But very interesting guy to watch fight. Like what he did. Good performance. Next fight out, we had Modestas Bukauskas sending the Bear Jew into retirement. Really nasty elbow. That was a very nasty elbow. But I did say, you know, during the weigh-ins that Modestas was on Parlay Buster watch. And momentarily it looked like, you know, I was pretty right. Paul Craig Paul Craig didn't, you know, start the very first grappling engagement. It was actually Modestas, and Paul Craig was almost close to securing a takedown, was threatening, you know, a couple of trips, and then at the end of the first round he decides to jump guard, and that's what ended up getting him finished here. But I have to say, it was a little shaky for Modestas, you know, on the mat. Was playing in the guard, but he's remained defensively responsible, was sticking very close to Paul Craig, not giving him, you know, any breathing room for him to snatch up a limb. Paul Craig tried to throw up a triangle. Modestas was able to avoid it and let some very nasty elbows go. Landed the last one at the very last second of the round, and Paul Craig was dazed. He was out on his back. He was unable to answer the bell, unable to get to his feet, and Modestas Bukauskas wins with a very first round TKO. So, I mean, I know I was out on him here because I recognized the grappling danger from Paul Craig, and not that it was there all the way, but there were moments that I feel as though if Paul Craig wouldn't have jumped guard, I think if he would have survived to the second round, I think we would have seen a little bit more, you know, clinch and wrestling. And I think Paul Craig would have successfully gotten Modestas down. So do with that what you will moving forward, but very impressive, you know, finish from Modestas Bukauskas. Moving forward, I think you have to give him a fight in the rankings. You know, I think he's on a 4-fight win streak now. He's putting together some really nice names. Paul Craig, Ion Cutelaba, Rafael Sequeira, Marcin Prachnio. He's on a really nice run right now. So I think it's time for him to get a ranked opponent. And if I were to give him someone, I would go with, you got to give him a top, 15 guy. A Krylov fight wouldn't be crazy. If they don't do Guskov versus Sotobaidiev, then I don't know, that could be a scary fight. I think Guskov's going to fight forward a little bit more. Dustin Jacoby still hasn't been booked, so Dustin Jacoby versus Modestas Bukauskas could definitely be booked, and we'll see some pretty impressive kickboxers go off. So I really like that fight, Dustin versus Modestas. If Dustin doesn't have anything booked yet, maybe even a Johnny Walker fight. Who knows? But yeah, really good win for Modestas Bukauskas. Next fight, we move to the co-main event and the lock of the week, Mauricio Rufy. Ah, man. Benoit Saint Denis absolutely obliterates everybody's parlay, everybody's pick, and gets it done with a second round choke. This was a fraud check, I have to say it. First round, Benoit comes out, throws a high kick. Mauricio Rufy did not evade it. He actually got hit by it, which was the very first tell to me that he was not in this fight completely. No, not that it's an excuse. I just knew that, if he's getting hit by a high kick from Benoit, it's going to be a long night. Then he gets hit by the body kick. Benoit was able to close distance properly. Rufy's timing looked off. I don't know what it was. The pressure, I know he knew that Benoit was going to pressure him. Second round, he had a little bit more success, but first round, he gets taken down easily, put in the full mount, threatening a couple of, submission attempts, was taking a couple of shots, was able to get back to his feet momentarily, but Benoit was on him like white on rice. I just don't know how, Rufy wasn't expecting that. I was expecting to see a lot more pivots. His takedown defense looked absolutely terrible too. I don't know, man. This is a very bad loss. Not because it's Benoit, it's just this is a bad loss for him because he was surging, bro. This win, if he would have won this fight, it could have been a decision. Had he won, he was going to get some really nice matchups next. But him taking his loss, getting subbed, especially getting finished, that's stinky. That's absolutely atrocious, bro. Benoit Saint Denis came out second round, takes him down. He did eat a shot, though. I will say, Rufy did let one shot go that stung Benoit. He didn't jump on the opportunity where he should have because Benoit was rocked a little bit. Same situation with the Prepelic fight where he got stunned and his opponent didn't apply the pressure where they should have, because that chin of Benoit, man, it might not be as good as it once was before, but he just eats it and keeps walking forward. Rufy was definitely supposed to time something. I don't know, man. Flying knee, even landed, didn't follow up on that. His takedown defense is atrocious. Islam Makhachev even tweeted, like, stop all the talking. Please go work on your wrestling. This guy's wrestling is shit. That's exactly what he said, I believe. And it is, man. He's going to need to work on his grappling because that was terrible. And, now the biggest hole in his game has been exposed. Carlos Prates looked a lot better against Ian Gary, who's less of a wrestler than Mauricio Rufy did. But this loss definitely stings a lot more because Carlos was at least threatening a finish late in that fight. Rufy taps out second round and just very, it didn't suck the air out of the arena because they wanted Benoit to win, but everybody had Mauricio Rufy winning by knockout, and it was a trap. I fell for it. It is what it is, man. Rufy disappoints, he fails, and we fail with the lock of the week again. It stings, it hurts, but we don't stop with a loss. We keep moving forward. So it is what it is. Benoit is probably going to get a really nice fight next. I feel as though Joel Alvarez definitely was going to finish him. I don't think he would have had the success that he had here because of, just a significant difference in the reach and the height and how he would have had to approach closing the distance. But I don't know, man. What do you do with Benoit? You got to give him a really high stakes fight because he just stopped, the guy that everyone thought that was, close to threatening for the title. So I don't know. BSD versus Dan Hooker rings off. That's the very first fight that I'm thinking about. You got to do that. BSD versus maybe the loser of a Fiziev Oliveira. Maybe BSD versus Gamrot even. I think a Gamrot fight could be interesting. Um, Definitely a main event, probably like an Apex main event, BSD versus Gamrot, or they could give him the Patty. Honestly, if they're not going, if the rumors are true and Justin is fighting for the title next, you do Patty versus BSD. Arman's gonna have to fight. I don't know. I don't really like. I'm not a hater of Arman, but I don't respect him pulling out in the title fight, hours before, and I don't think he should be rewarded with a title shot either. I know he's, put together a great win streak, but him pulling out like that, it just does not sit well with me. And it's not like he's been suspended. And I doubt people are turning down fights for him. He's actually turning down fights. I believe he turned down a fight with he turned down a Gamrot fight earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken, too. So I'm not rewarding Gamrot Arman with a high stakes fight or even a title shot. So Patty BSD, Gamrot BSD, or Dan Hooker BSD, those three definitely ring off in my mind. For Ruffy, he's not fighting in the rankings for at least two more fights. If I was the matchmaker, I think Ruffy versus they gotta feed him. They gotta give him to somebody that he can, get the star power back. But a Sadikov fight would be nasty. A Manuel Torres fight would be nasty. They could give him Drakkar Close. That's a fight that he could win. Esteban Ribovics, you know what I'm saying? There's fights for Ruffy that aren't going to be super easy, but they will be, what's the word? Entertaining. Zell Huber could definitely be entertaining. There's a lot of fights for Mauricio Ruffy. It's just that loss was absolutely atrocious. So it is what it is. We move. And, Ruffy's going to have to move on and work on his grappling defense because that was piss poor, I got to say. Main event of the evening. If you haven't already, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Imavov beats Caio Borralho by unanimous decision. I did expect the fight to go, the full 5 rounds. I didn't think anyone was going to get a finish. But I will say there were moments for both of these guys where they hurt each other. I would say Imavov definitely started a lot quicker, a lot faster, a lot stronger. And he had Caio, second guessing his approach. Honestly, he looked too fast for him. Caio looked very apprehensive, looking like he didn't want to engage in the striking, I don't know if he was too relaxed or too rusty. Him being out for a year probably played a part into this too. But Imavov looked like he was ready to, make a statement. And I'm not going to say like, he absolutely dog walked Caio because, like I said, there were moments where Caio would close distance and land a big shot, even wobbled him momentarily. Both of these guys got hurt, 2-3 times in this fight. But Caio just looked really hesitant to pull the trigger. He did try to force some wrestling exchanges, was unable to get Imavov down, but Imavov, threatened some wrestling exchanges, was unable to get Caio down. Caio just looked a little hesitant to pull the trigger ultimately, and Imavov was able to pull away. I will say, on my scorecard, I had a 3-2. I gave round 3 to Caio, and I think I gave round 4 to Caio. I'll have to rewatch it, but I think I gave those 2 rounds to Caio slightly. But I'm not upset with a 4-1. I don't think he won all 5 rounds, though. I know there was a 50-45 on one of the scorecards. I don't think it was a 50-45. I think it was 3-2, 3-2 or 4-1. But Imavov definitely did win, not taking that away from him. And, for Caio, what do you do next? Imavov, I don't know if he's going to get the title shot, because RDR versus Fluffy could be a little bit more entertaining. We could see a finish. And that sets them up, you know what I'm saying? If not, Imavov could be next for the title. I don't think he's going to have the strike. I mean, he might. He might have the striking to deal with a Hamzat, but the way that Hamzat is able to just close the distance and get on you and stick on you could be, a lot of trouble. So I think Imavov's going to be playing the waiting game. He's definitely going to have to watch what happens with RDR and Fluffy. For Caio, I think I know him and Adesanya are pretty cool. I don't think they do that fight. Maybe a Brendan Allen fight that could be worked. Even if Caio wants to get in there before the end of the year, I don't think so. But maybe top of the year, we do a Caio versus Brendan Allen fight. Maybe Kaio versus Robert Whitaker, maybe MVP versus Kaio. I don't know if they move him up that high, but you know, MVP coming off that pretty impressive decision over Jared Cannonier where he stuck him a couple of times. There's fights for Kaio to make. Robert, I think if I had to rank it, I would go Brendan, Robert, MVP, or Brendan, MVP, Robert. So those are the three matchups that I want to see for Caio Borralho moving forward. And he needs to get some more fights, man. First loss in about 16 fights. So, you know, it stings. Both the fighting nerds lose at the top of the card. Very nasty, you know, performances from Ruffy. Not necessarily Caio. Caio looked okay, just didn't look like himself. I think the speed was definitely something that, you know, bothered him a lot. But I think he'll look better next time out. He won't have to deal with the same speed unless he's fighting like an MVP. That could be a little bit of trouble for him because, you know, the speed is definitely what gave him a lot of trouble. Nasruddin was very sharp, very quick to the punch, and was able to get his combinations off. Was landing, you know, some pretty solid hooks too that, you know, cracked him. The uppercuts were pretty cracking too. So yeah, it is what it is, man. Imavov walks away as the winner. But let's go over the picks. So let's start it off. We win with Sam, lose with Gustafsson, lose with Tavares. Even though I told you that, you know, BRYCZEK could knock him out, I just didn't pick it. So 1 and 3, or excuse me, 1 and 2, 2 and 2 with Patterson, 3 and 2 with Fernandez, 4 and 2 with DELIJA, 5 and 2 with Sai, 6 and 2 with GOMIS. Then we lose with MCKEE, so 6 and 3 with MCKEE, 6 and 4 with Oki, 7 and 4 with Bukauskas, 7 and 5 with RUFFY, and 7 and 6 with Caio. Not my best day, not my worst day. I only got one perfect. What was the perfect one? GOMIS by decision. Yep. But yeah, I did know that, you know, there was capabilities of majority of these guys to get the finish. Didn't mention the Fernandez finish. I did mention I picked, you know, DELIJA by finish. I picked Sai. I said sub, you know, sub and club, or club and sub gets the TKO. I didn't think MCKEE was going to get finished. I didn't think Oki was going to get finished. I thought that fight was going to go to a decision, but you know, he makes the same mistake that he made against Chris Duncan and gets finished. RUFFY absolutely sold me and everybody. Gustafsson, I didn't think was going to get finished. I didn't think he was going to lose, let alone get finished. But yeah, man, it's the way that the dice rolls. Let's get to the parlays, man, that got cooked. I tell you, they got cooked. So RUFFY loses. The over 3.5 with the Caio versus Imavov hits, but RUFFY, man. Gustafsson loses. GOMIS wins. Reese loses. RUFFY loses, and Sean Bannon gets finished in the second round. Reese loses. DELIJA wins. Kawe wins. Sam Patterson wins, and Gustafsson gets finished. Over 2.5 does not hit in Oki versus Jones. Sam wins, and we know we scrapped this for. Let me pull it up again. It wasn't Pitbull. It was let me look at it. It was supposed to be Sam Jones, or excuse me, over 2.5. Oki versus Jones, Sam, Ante, and Gustafsson. So Ante hit. That was plus 651, but Gustafsson loses. Over 3.5 in the Caio Imavov hits. Under 1.5 does not hit in the RUFFY versus BSD because that fight ended towards the end of the second round. DELIJA wins and GOMIS wins. So the under screwed us there. Gustafsson loses. DELIJA wins. Reese loses. RUFFY loses. Caio loses. Kawe wins. Reese gets knocked out. And then RUFFY does not get the finish in round 1. GOMIS wins. And Sam gets the TKO. So we got cooked on the parlays. Man, it sucks walking away with a 0 profit day because I don't got money to blow, brother, man. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. Let me know what you guys thought about the card. You know, we got UFC Noche next week. Gene Silva taking on Diego Lopez, excuse me. The card, I gotta say, well, let me rate this card first. I gotta give it a 9 because there was a lot of finishes. I think, let me see how many finishes did we have. I think there was maybe 2 decisions? Yeah, I think there was 2 decisions. So how can you hit a card that has 10 out of 12 fights, or excuse me, 10 out of, or 11 out of 13 fights, you know, get finished? Let me just make sure I'm absolutely correct. Yeah, Imavov goes to the decision, and then Gomis goes to the decision. Everybody else gets a finish, sub, or a knockout. So, damn, we had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 first round finishes. 1, 2, 3, 4 fights that ended in the second or third round. So a lot of finishes throughout the night, man. Very impressive card. I'll give it a 9 out of 10, definitely. And UFC Paris delivered, man. I don't know if UFC Noche does, looking at it, just breezing through the opposition, but we'll see what we get when we get there. But like always, guys, I keep the review honest. I lose, I let you know, but we move forward, man. It is what it is. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you for the full card predictions for UFC Noche. Diego Lopez versus Gene Silva. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Drop a W if you ain't got nothing to say. Like, comment, subscribe, do what you got to do, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.